Are you ready for the best Kansas City Chiefs podcast? Welcome to the Chiefs Blitz podcast, brought to you by ChiefsBlitz.com, your top source for Chiefs news. Our podcast is produced by Bowtie Sports and hosted by Dick Happen, Lou Montagna, Andre Tillman, Hence Todd, and special contributor, Fox Sports reporter and anchor, Harold Kuntz. Please like and subscribe to our show. Now let's talk Kansas City Chiefs football.
Football, that's right, gang. We are back and better than last show, we hope. As you can see, we're in a two-shot for the time being. Our crack producer, Hensley Todd, and myself, Nick and Coach are not available today, but we'll have a special guest coming up yet. If you guys looked at the thumbnail, you checked Twitter, JP Acosta of CBS Sports HQ will be joining us momentarily. We'll grill him about his thoughts on the Chiefs draft, just the Chiefs in general, and anything else that comes up. But hence, you got JP on here. What you feeling pretty good about yourself? Looks like you and JP made the thumbnail, but nobody else.
Hey, I could have fit everybody on there.
Right,
I was like, I can't fit everybody on there, so
I got. Hey, no problem. I got you. We just work here. Your world.
Hey. So with that said, we're gonna bring on JP, man. How you doing, JP? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you. Welcome. Hey, I'm a big fan of your work. I've been watching you. When you first came in on CBS Sports headquarters, and now you doing a podcast and everything else. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing I do is I co-host the Pushing the Pile podcast in the off season. We have episodes on CBS Sports Network every Wednesday. You can find them on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I also write for CBSSports.com. And then you can find me on CBS Sports HQ, CBS Sports Network, just talking about the NFL draft, and just anywhere where there's football to be found, I'm probably going to be there talking about it.
And I know you was breaking down. I know one of the Chiefs' favorite picks of yours probably is R. Mason Thomas. I know mine is R. Mason Thomas as well. So we'll get in deep dive, and then I know a lot of people giving me they be giving me heck on this show about calling him the Golden Jacket Kid, man, because he kind of remind me of Derek Thomas, but they said it's blaspheming. They some of them said it's out here.
Yeah, let's let him play a game first. All right, come on. You mentioned him with one of the all-time greats. We have this conversation and have had nonstop since the draft. Yeah, but that's okay. You keep pushing that narrative.
So other than that, I'm gonna let Luke take over. What questions you have for him today?
I got all sorts of questions for you, JP. I hope you're ready. First off, who do you identify more with, Florida Atlantic or Northwestern? What does it depend? Does it depend on the room you're in?
I think I identify more with Florida Atlantic. That's where I went for undergrad. Northwestern, obviously, for grad school. I needed both to get to where I'm at now, but I think when it comes to, there was a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament, Florida Atlantic played Northwestern, and I rooted for Florida Atlantic. So I'm sticking with
and openly announcing it on our podcast. That's pretty awesome. So, I mean, we're like in this cocoon, and sometimes we get tunnel vision. We talk about the Chiefs 3-4 times a week, and sometimes more during the draft and everything else, and we just get so hyper focused. You look at things, more like all 32. What would you say, just kind of nationally, and then also your own opinion, kind of where the Chiefs are in their progression back towards getting to the playoffs?
I think they're at a really interesting inflection point when it comes to the rest of the AFC, because if you look at the AFC from a large scale, yeah, you have teams like the Broncos. The Patriots are obviously the reigning champions of the conference, but every team in the conference has significant question marks. Every contender has significant question marks. If you want to look at the teams with the 4 best quarterbacks in the conference, they are all either going through new head coaches with the Ravens and the Bills. The Bengals are the Bengals still. Like they're trying to figure out what they're going to be. And then the Chiefs, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes being out for probably the first part of the season, coming off that ACL tear, there's just a lot of questions within the conference. But I do think that if the defense's young guys start to pan out, if they can hit the ground running immediately and give this offense time to sort of find itself before Mahomes comes back, then who knows? We might see the Chiefs back in this when it comes to the contendership really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we're solely focused on, right? So during the course of the draft, just about before every pick, some of the people on our panel kept clamoring for wide receivers. And hey, that's understandable, but they have drafted wide receivers recently. How do you think that group is viewed again nationally? Between, you're talking about Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, a lot of guys that, we're still kind of waiting for the big pop.
I think the receiver core nationally is sort of viewed as a little bit more volatile than you would want from the Chiefs offense. I think there's a lot of specialists in the room. Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy, they have a lot of guys who can go and get the ball deep. And I think Rashee Rice is supposed to be their underneath guy that's sort of on the receiving end of a lot of those RPOs, a lot of the quick game that they do. But I do think they need to find somebody who can create a little bit more separation, whether that be Rashee Rice, whether he grows into that role, whether it be Xavier Worthy. And I think Worthy has shown he can do that. But I think a lot of what the Chiefs did with their receiver room is they have to manufacture open targets, right, whether it be through bunches, stacks. They can't just say, like if we're comparing it to basketball, they don't really have a guy who it's the fourth quarter, we're going to go put this guy in isolation, he's going to go get us a bucket. They have a lot of guys who they really want to try and manufacture open touches for and manufacture favorable situations for. But I think they need a guy who can consistently be a one-on-one winner. And again, whether that be Worthy, whether that be Rice, there are guys with potential in that room. But I do think right now there's a little more volatility, meaning sometimes when that receiver room is on, they are one of the best in the league. But when they're not, like we've seen really bad stretches of play from that group.
Yeah,
so,
especially.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as especially like Rashee Rice, you kind of see the 1 minute he can be a bona fide number one wide receiver, then other times he look like a number two or number three, with the drops or and stuff like that. But coming this year, I think that with the new wide receiver coach, with this kind of group, I think they kind of believe in Royals. Royals know they got last year in the fourth round. I think looking at that room now, I think that they can kind of take it far. What you think about Royals they got last year in the fourth round? You think because he didn't see the field as much last year. What you think about him?
I was a fan of Jalen Royals coming out of Utah State. I did think he had a little bit more of he might be limited to being a slot-only receiver, but within this offense, if you have Rashee Rice on the outside, you can manufacture those alleys for Jalen Royals to work. And I think he works really well on in-breakers. I thought he was really good at in-breakers coming out of Utah State, and just his ability to win after the catch and his ability to be tough over the middle of the field. So it might feel like overkill a little bit with Rashee Rice also working the middle of the field, Travis Kelce sort of growing into his role as the zone buster in the middle of the field. But I do think that a guy like Royals can be he can add another layer to that offense when it comes to reliability in the slot, the ability to create after the catch. And I think the layering to the offense will be really helpful as they continue to grow and as they ask those young guys to mature.
Go ahead. You got one more. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're really looking to the University of Cincinnati with a couple of young players here. They drafted Cyrus Allen, and then they bring in like the super freak Jeff Caldwell as a UDFA that apparently everybody wanted after he blew up the combine. What were your thoughts on those two guys, and how do you see them kind of fitting in to this team?
So I think Jeff Caldwell, to start off with him, he is one of the most unique receivers that I've seen because he is a legitimate freak athlete, 6'5", runs in the 4.3s, and you can tell that speed when you watch him play, but he is still a very unrefined receiver. He still struggles a little bit against physicality because he's a thinner guy, but I think if you can get him free releases, he is a legitimate size speed threat on the outside. So if you're thinking about like the rapport Mahomes had with Tyquan Thornton, I think Jeff Caldwell can also potentially do that and grow into that role. But I actually really like Cyrus Allen. I like Cyrus Allen for what he can be in this offense because he is a pure separator. I think he can create separation at the top of his routes. I believe he had a lot of touchdowns at Cincinnati in his final season. He has a big play ability. Now, I do worry a little bit again, like, can he win consistently on the outside against bigger corners? He's not a bigger receiver, but his footwork, his creativity as a route runner really stand out. And I think that's something that might be able to help this offense out even more, as I say, with somebody who, as I say, this team needs to find someone who can go get them a bucket. Cyrus Allen was that guy for Cincinnati. And even though he did it in a smaller frame, he had the ability to go and win at the top of routes really well.
Yeah, they do. Chiefs do tend to specialize in the smaller, shiftier receivers. And like you said, if you're putting together a basketball team, you're not going to win with a bunch of just point guards, right? So now, we're going to get to Hence's player here, but I saw you put out a list of stand on the table type guy. You're going to pound the table for these guys. And one of these guys that's on your list goes by the name of R. Mason Thomas, right? How did he get on your list? Why did he get on your list? And how is he going to impact the Chiefs defense this year?
So he made my list first of all because the motor is unreal. There is a play against Auburn where he chases down the running back.
Oh, we've seen it like 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's an incredible play. But I think the biggest thing for him on the field is he brought a different kind of pass rush style to a lot of the 2026 draft class. I think if you look at the draft class as a whole, you think of guys like Reuben Bain, you think of guys like Zion Young, Gabe Akis, all those guys sort of win with power. And I even think David Bailey had the potential, showed the ability to work a speed to power. But R. Mason Thomas wins with that first step and some of the best bend in this draft class. And even though he's a little more undersized, I do think he had the ability to take on tight ends in the run game. And because he has that relentless motor, because he can go through tight ends in that way, I think he can become a true 3-down player. But his speed and his burst off the line of scrimmage, that is such a cool aspect to have as a pass rusher, because that he's going to bring that pitch every single game. It's a different style than what a lot of teams are going after, because a lot of teams are starting to bank their edge rushers on converting speed to power and collapsing the pocket for quarterbacks. But now quarterbacks are starting to just scramble out of it. And with all the athletes at the position, you need somebody who's going to chase those guys down. And I think R. Mason Thomas can be a really, really fun player for Kansas City.
I'm going to clip this clip all day long. I'm going to clip this clip all day long because, hey, I've been thinking about R. Mason Thomas. A lot of people gave me hell. They was like, oh, R. Mason Thomas.
I'm just going to show myself out.
I'm going to show myself out. Well, R. Mason Thomas, like I've been said, I've been on him, and like in December, I started watching his tape. And I'm like, this kid, man, I know everybody said Reuben Bain and all these other guys. I was like, it's got to be Bailey and it's got to be R. Mason Thomas for me. Looking at this pass rushing class, and maybe Young from Mizzou, and him as well. But when I seen the Chiefs drafted R. Mason Thomas, I went crazy. I was like, everybody's looking at me like, why are you going crazy for this kid? I said, y'all don't know what y'all get in this kid, man, and him coming from Oklahoma. I feel like he's going to give the Chiefs what they actually need on their front line on the defense. Go ahead, Lou.
Well, JP, for 15 minutes after the pick was announced, the show just became incomprehensible because Hence left his body, I think, or something happened there. I don't know what, but you mentioned pushing the pile. Your partner there, Mike Renner, I think he kind of cut his teeth at PFF. So a lot of analytics and so forth. I wanted to ask you, how do you think analytics has really impacted scout? And I'm sure it always has, but just at this stage of the game where it seems like a lot more GMs are embracing it and so forth. So from your perspective, how has analytics maybe not so much changed scouting, but how has it kind of proliferated?
Yeah, I think when it comes to analytics and just not only in scouting, but in the sport overall, I always tell people analytics is a tool. It is not the entire thing that you base a discussion about a football player on, but it's a tool that's used to help give yourself more of a base when you go in and watch a player. So if analytically you're seeing that this receiver average 3 yards per route run but has an extremely high drop rate, you go in and think like, okay, let's see why he's dropping all these passes. Is it because every route he's running is a go ball down the sideline, and those passes are generally, like we call them 50-50 balls, but if you're throwing 50-50 balls, the drop rate's going to be high because DB is going to break it up occasionally. So I think there's a lot of ways that analytics has proliferated its way into the scouting process. And I think it just helps you build a more well-rounded knowledge base about a player, because only using film, but only using analytics is not a great way to tell the story about a player. And I think of scouting players as telling a story about their career, because a player might be great his junior year, bad his senior year, great his sophomore year, bad his junior year. And those numbers will say like, oh, he was bad his junior year, take him off your board. But there's a lot more to it. There's a why. There's a way you can go about it by watching the film and seeing what happened. But if you also watch the film and see like, hey, maybe this guy is not doing that great on tape, but the numbers say he's really good, maybe there's something more to that. So I see it as a tool and not the entire thing, but it's really helpful in building out your knowledge base about a player.
So it's not so easy as, hey, these are the numbers that this guy put up, and that kind of tells you a story. It's like, okay, how did he do that? Or if there are some negatives, let's dig in a little bit deeper, use these numbers to kind of, so there's a lot more nuance to it. And we try to talk about that a little bit, but it normally turns into a different conversation. But anyway, that's a great explanation, and I'm gonna have to tune in. I always like Mike. I'm getting to like you now too, so I'm gonna have to tune in.
Yeah, I like how they break down the film and players over there too, and also the Chiefs traded up. And on draft day in the first round, they traded up with the Cleveland Browns to get Delane from LSU. I know you said he on your show that he was third on your on cornerback board. Where the Chiefs are getting Delane? I know I watched the film. I know that they said hence all 22. I said Darrelle Revis. You know what I mean? That's my comp. When I looked at him, I watched him play. But what do you see from him? And where you had him on your board?
So he was my CB3 going into this process, behind Jamal McCoy, behind Avion Terrell, but that pre-draft cycle, he was the only one of those guys that actually answered the questions that I had about him. And one of the questions I had was about his long speed, but his ability to flip his hips in transition and man coverage. He has patient eyes, and I think that's going to help so much in Spags' defense, but he plays a lot bigger than his size. And I think that's really good for a corner who's maybe 5'11", not the biggest corner, but he plays a lot bigger than his size. And I think his quick feet, quick hips, I think that's going to really help him out on the boundary. And I think the biggest thing for him, for me, was, is he a good enough athlete to stay out there? And then he ran a 4.38 at LSU's pro day. So it's sort of like, all right, you answered all of my questions. Initially, when they traded up to pick him, I said it was a little bit risky, because I didn't think that Delane, was the best corner in this draft class. But like I said, he was the only corner that was ready to play right now and answered all the questions during the draft cycle. And with the Chiefs' need at cornerback being really large, I understand going up and getting him. So I think he's a really nice fit for Spags' defense. And I do think that he's going to be a guy who will start from day one. I'm very curious how he goes up against some of the bigger body receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, because he said he want to get that matchup with on Jamar Chase. I think it's just LSU with them two playing against together. But I would love to see that matchup as well. Also, that in the first round they took Peter Woods. Can you tell us more what you thought about Peter Woods coming out of Clemson?
So when I talked about analytics versus film and how you merged the two. One of the guys I was thinking about was Peter Woods, who started at Clemson as a freshman, started at Clemson as a sophomore, was phenomenal in those first 2 years, but he slimmed down and they forced him to play more nose tackle in 2025. So naturally his play sort of dipped. But I do think that if there's any defense that's going to get the most out of him, it is Spags' defense, where they play a lot of 4 down. You want to get upfield. But I think the biggest thing is he wins with speed and violence. I think that's going to really help in this defense, where I've said for a long time that the Chiefs need to vary up their pass rushing types outside of Chris Jones. They have a lot of guys who win with long arms, power, bull rush, and that's really cool, but you need a guy who's going to come in and be a change-up guy. And I think Peter Woods and also R. Mason Thomas are really good change-ups to what's already on the roster. And like I said, if there's anybody who's going to keep Peter Woods locked in, it's going to be Spags. It's going to be playing for the Chiefs. And if he is completely focused, I think he's going to be really good at just getting vertical penetration.
All right, I like that. The kid got a lot of upside coming out of Clemson's as well, and I know the whole team in Clemson had a down year. So a lot of their players, wasn't looked up on like that. But also as a kid that's coming out of Oregon, everybody comparing to Tyrann Mathieu. Now I didn't watch a lot of tape on him, and Mr. Kennedy. What do you think about him coming out of Oregon?
I'm not going to call him the honey badger because that is really lofty. I am normally not a guy who likes to do people say comparisons because it sets really, really high expectations for players.
We're all about hyperbole on this show, JP. That's what we do.
But if there's any player in this draft class that exemplifies the phrase dog in him, it is Jaden Kennedy. He played at box safety. He played deep safety. He played nickel at Oregon. I think his play recognition is really good. I think he can match with guys from the slot. I do think he's undersized, but he plays a lot bigger than his actual size, especially playing at nickel. And if Dan Lanning's going to have you out there at nickel at 5'10", you better be able to get involved in the run fit. You better be able to go and get your helmet a little dirty. Go get the paint of the other team's helmet on your helmet. You can't be afraid of that. I think Kennedy shows a fearlessness that will really help in that defense, especially with how much the Chiefs love to do the simulated pressures and have their DBs wear a lot of different hats. I thought the Chiefs nickel spot was a really big question mark for them last year. They weren't able to do a lot of the stuff that they wanted to because Jamari Connor just wasn't able to hold up at that nickel spot. So Kennedy can be a guy that potentially starts right away, and you're looking at a defense now with all 4 of those guys, Delane, R. Mason Thomas, Peter Woods, and Kennedy, that is very fast and also incredibly aggressive. So I'm very curious to see how those 4 young guys start to reshape or remodel the Chiefs defense along with Chris Jones.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. And also Norman Lott that's coming back from next year, this year as well from that injury. I think the D-line is going to look better from what it did from last year's prior. The guys are younger. No more Mike Pinnells they bringing in. No more older guys. They try to, Chris Jones friends that he want to bring in. They need more younger guys like Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, these guys to come in and, like you said, to change up guys. And the Chiefs drafted a quarterback in the 7th round from LSU. What do you think about him?
So Garrett Nussmeier is an incredibly fascinating evaluation because I do think the kid is incredibly smart. Like, if we're talking about ball knower, Garrett Nussmeier is a ball knower playing the quarterback spot. Obviously, his father being around the NFL as long as he has. I mean, he is currently offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. I think he has that ability to recognize defenses pre and post snap. But that oblique injury completely sapped his arm strength. And for a guy who's not that big, that's also incredibly worrisome because he isn't that big. He doesn't have the greatest arm strength, but he has shown that he has some pretty nice moments with pocket movement. He has a nice feel for the game. So I think that'll really help him out. I think he profiles more as a spot starter. He's not a guy that you're going to want to start for extended stretches over a season. But if you need a guy to come in and just give you a game where he can manage the offense. He'll make a few nice throws, but not necessarily like build the offense around him. I think Garrett Nussmeier could be that guy. I thought he was very similar to what the Niners got in Mac Jones last season, where Jones was clearly the ceiling was limited with Mac Jones, but he was able to get you where the Niners needed to go. So if Nussmeier is going to actually start games this season, I do think he has the ability to just keep the offense on track. He doesn't have to completely take over the steering wheel and start making the big decisions. That's what Andy Reid is for. But he can at least keep the car straight. And I think that's the biggest thing that they're going to need while Patrick Mahomes is out is just keep the car straight until we get our main driver back.
Yeah, I believe earlier today, not that Jake Haener was going to be this great player for the Chiefs, but they cut him earlier today. So I'm thinking maybe they saw enough over the rookie minicamp to say, hey, Nussmeier's alive, he's not injured, and he's going to be our developmental guy and not Jake Haener. So just to add that to the where he's going and where he's at right now.
And also, speaking of Mahomes, I know Mahomes went, last year, the team wasn't good. His stat numbers wasn't good as well. Do you see this team, what they did in the offseason, with adding all these guys, Kenneth Walker, MVP in the backfield, adding all these guys to the team, can they get back to the top on the AFC West, take over the throne from the Denver Broncos?
I think they could, but I do think it's relying on a couple things. First is all those defensive rookies and those second-year guys. I'm thinking of guys like Noel Williams. It relies on those guys stepping up. It relies on those guys hitting the ground running. And I think that's also sort of the formula for how Chiefs defenses won Super Bowls. Like those young guys got those reps. It didn't look great early in the season, but as they continued to get reps and get game experience, they got better as time went on, and it clearly led to what the defense was for the last few years. I think the second thing that it's relying on is the offensive line actually gelling together. I think if you get a full year Josh Simmons, I think Jalen Moore at right tackle will actually be an upgrade over Jawan Taylor, which should not be a shocker to anybody. But I think the addition of Kenneth Walker might actually help make this offense a little bit less Mahomes-centric. And I don't say that to say the offense should be taken out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. But I think about with all the offenses, all the great offenses in the NFL, you think about what all the star offenses or offenses with star quarterbacks have. I think with Josh Allen in Buffalo, you have an amazing ground game to where you don't need Josh Allen to constantly be Superman and do every single thing for that team. I think the best versions of the Ravens with Lamar Jackson were able to just have him be Superman when they need him to, instead of constantly having to do it all the time. I think Kenneth Walker will help make this offense a little more sustainable. And when Patrick Mahomes gets back, I do think that he won't be relied on to be a factor as much in the run game and constantly be the one that has to move this offense forward. And I think that'll be able to let him and the passing game start to develop a little bit more. So I think they can get back to the top of the AFC, but I do think it's relying on, obviously, Patrick Mahomes getting back to what he was pre-injury, but it also is relying on that offensive line and specifically those young guys on defense hitting the ground running.
All right. And also with the AFC West, what do you give the draft grade so far? I know you've seen every team, finish up the draft. What do you think the draft grades? Who won the AFC West? I know you're on the Chiefs show, but just tell the truth. Who won in the AFC West? Who you think won AFC in the draft?
So I think if we're just ranking draft classes and how I grade them in the AFC West, I really loved what Las Vegas did in their draft. I think getting the quarterback at number one and then surrounding him with with the defense, with the picks that they made. I really like some of their day two guys. Getting Jamal McCoy in the first pick in the fourth round could potentially be a steal for them. I think Kansas City would be right there below them at number two. I think, like I said, those young guys on defense, if they pan out immediately, it could be a home run class. And I like the potential of Cyrus Allen in this offense. So I like what they did. I think the Chargers are probably fourth because I didn't really like the Akeem Mesidor pick. And I thought they waited a little bit too long to address guard. I know they want to play Jake Slaughter at guard, but he's a career center at Florida. But I think right above them, below Kansas City, is where I put Denver, who obviously you can say their first round pick was Jalen Waddle. So it's fine to say that. And I think Jalen Waddle will really help that offense out. But I think that's how I would rank them. That's how I would grade them: is Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers.
All right.
Yeah, King Mesidor was kind of a discussion, right? Because again, on this show, it seemed like a couple of the guys had he and Bain ranked fairly closely. How much do you think the fact that he's 25 years old, a little bit older prospect? I mean, what, again, in terms of evaluating, how do you kind of factor that in when you're looking at prospects?
I think age is definitely a factor, but I do think as the college football landscape changes, I think age might be a little bit less of a factor because you never know what these guys' stories are. They could transfer due to NIL. I think Mesidor had a bunch of injuries. I think injuries is probably where I have the biggest questions. And I think a lot of those foot injuries sapped him of his athleticism, especially with bend and fluidity. I thought he was a little bit stiff, which is why I think when you compare Bain to Mesidor, I had Bain well above Mesidor in my final rankings. But I do think if the best thing for Mesidor, if you're looking at what he potentially can be ceiling wise, I think it's more of a rotational pass rusher because he doesn't really have a lot of power or pop in his hands. And you combine the fact that he's a little bit older of a prospect with a little bit more stiffness. I had a lot of questions about that pick for Los Angeles, but I can see sort of why they did it, mainly because like this team is going to go try and win a Super Bowl right now. But if you're expecting Akeem Mesidor to be the Khalil Mack like heir, then it's like you're drafting a 25-year-old to be the heir to a guy who is already old. So when are you going to let them start to actually become that? Because by the end of his rookie contract, if he gets a fifth-year option, he'll be 30. So I don't really know. I would have gone a different direction if I was the Chargers, but I also see why they did it.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about those two guys, so I just wanted to get your take on that.
I want to ask a question. I'm looking at those two guys coming out of Miami. Watching Ruben Bain and Mesidor. For me, as watching the film, it seems like Mesidor was always the one, their first one to the quarterback, and Ruben Bain was always one that was cleaning it up. I know he went in the playoffs and he caused mayhem, but Mesidor, I think, was the best out of those two. In my eyes, me looking at the film, but I know you do this for a living. But do you think I was right about that? I'm okay. You say I'm wrong, but does it look like that to you as well?
I think he probably did get to the quarterback quicker than Ruben Bain, but I think that's also because Ruben Bain got most of the attention from opposing offensive lines. I think if you were asking opposing college football coaches who they had more nightmares about game planning against, it's probably Ruben Bain because of not only how he affects the passing game, but how he affects the run game. And he can just completely wreck one side of your offensive line. So they're going to slide protection to Ruben Bain. And I think that was the biggest reason for Miami's growth from 2024 to 2025 is having a guy like Akeem Mesidor on the other side who can take advantage of offensive tackles that he is a lot older than was really helpful for their defense. But I do think that if they were both given tracks in one-on-ones in isolated situations, I think they were about even in terms of getting to the quarterback first. But I think the way that Bain did it, I think he showed a lot more promise when it came to winning on the outside track, winning on the outside, getting to the high side shoulder, whereas Akeem Mesidor had a lot more like inside counters, which I worry about because if you can't get to the high side, I worry about the ceiling of you as a pass rusher in the NFL.
Okay, and that's what you've seen from R. Mason Thomas. You've seen that, that the explosiveness. I don't know, Lou. I'll leave it alone. But I want to ask.
I think he's a great player. I just don't like putting Derek Thomas in the same sentence.
I understand. I completely understand there.
Yeah.
But I have one more question. Justin Fields coming in as the Kansas City Chiefs. If Patrick Mahomes is not there week one, a lot of people saying he is there, or is he out for a couple games? Do you think Justin Fields and Andy Reid can fix what was wrong with Justin Fields? When he was at the Jets, sometimes you seen Justin Fields goes to the top, then sometimes you see him go back down. Do you think Andy Reid can find that in between and find what's actually wrong with him and get him back? What we've seen in our.
This is probably going to make for terrible content, but I mean, I'm not sure if Andy Reid can get the most out of Justin Fields, and it's not to say Andy Reid can't get the most out of a quarterback. It's just wondering what Justin Fields can be at this point, because we have seen him in multiple uniforms with multiple head coaches, multiple offensive minds, and the same problems still remain, which is he doesn't operate quickly enough. And even though he is a one-of-one athlete at the position, if you can't operate quickly enough, and I'm not saying processing-wise, I'm saying more just like the getting the ball out of your hand. It's an elongated release. It's not very fast. And I think that just slows him down so much that windows that are normally open are definitely closed in the NFL. So I'm curious if Andy Reid can speed up his timing, then yeah, the sky's the limit for a guy that athletic. But I just wonder if he actually can, because we've seen multiple other coaches try and give this a shot and it just hasn't worked. But I can guarantee you the run game stuff is going to be really fun behind that offensive line, and with Kenneth Walker, there's going to be some really creative stuff. I want to see Andy Reid dig all the way into the old Yale playbooks. I want to see him get all the way into the 1920s offenses with Justin Fields. It's real creative.
Yeah, I want to see that as well. But before we let you go, where do you see Patrick Mahomes? Do you see him starting week one? I know a lot of people are saying that, but are you, I know you out, CBS Sports. Are you out hearing the same thing that he probably start week one?
I haven't heard anything about Mahomes starting week one, and if it were me, I would just be a little bit hesitant on playing guy week one. I know that there has been a lot of growth in the sports science world, especially around knee injuries, ACL tears. So he probably could be ready by week one. But if you're rushing to try and get this guy back to being 100% week one, that's how guys re-tear. That's how guys get injured again, because you hurried the process up. I want to let Patrick Mahomes get as much time as possible to get back to 100% and being the guy that we know Patrick Mahomes is. And if that means the Chiefs lose a few games in the first quarter of the season, okay, but you don't want to risk the best quarterback in the NFL getting hurt with soft tissue injuries or nagging injuries that stem from just not being fully ready for full speed football. So I would let him sit. I would say maybe if he's ready by week 4 through 6, if he's ready then, sure. But I want to give him as much time as possible to get to 100%.
Yeah, people in the chat is agreeing with you as well. Lou, anything else for JP?
No, I was just going to say they probably just have to save Patrick from Patrick, because you see him when he gets hurt on the field, and it's like he's ready to fight Coach Reid when he tells him to take a seat or go get it checked out, and he's running to the locker room, then running back. I mean, it's that's going to be a fine line, and just based on some of the things that Coach was saying at his press availability, I believe on Saturday, when they were talking about Patrick, he kind of threw some gasoline on it too, saying that he should be able to do some stuff at the, phase 2. So we'll see. I mean, it's just because it's Patrick, it's he's playing. Okay. I hope he doesn't get re-injured or whatever, but he's definitely playing. But no, JP, just want to thank you for taking time and coming on here. If you want to let everybody in the chat know, or anybody that's watching this know how they can reach you, see you live or YouTube or whatever, go ahead and let them know.
Absolutely. You can find me mainly on Pushing the Pile. That is a podcast I co-host on CBS Sports. It is normally on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel there, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm also on TV on CBS Sports Network, on CBS Sports HQ. We will actually have a live episode of Pushing the Pile on CBS Sports Network on Wednesday at noon Eastern. So make sure you tune in for that. And also just follow along, see my work on cbssports.com. Follow me on social media at Acosta32_JP. But other than that, that's really where you can follow me. And like I said, anywhere where there's football being played, I'm probably talking about it.
All right, very cool. Very cool.
Thank you again for coming on. I love your work. Keep up the great work. And, during the season, I'll probably reach out to see you come back on. We talk some more R. Mason Thomas.
Exactly.
When we have some film.
We're not going to do Derek Thomas comparisons. I promise. No Derek comparisons, but I will have to be back to talk about R. Mason Thomas.
Okay. Thank you so much.
JP, very cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Lou, what did you get out of everything? What do you take from the
So that was JP Acosta. Well, I think, a lot of the things that we've talked about, he kind of touched on some of the player comparisons, between Bain and Mesidor. I think we were kind of along those lines, but some of us, just look at things a little bit differently. And that's great. That's the great thing about evaluating players is not everybody sees everything the same way. So we'll just like everybody else and everything else, it's got to be immediate. I need a grade on this player. I need it right now. Hasn't played a snap in the NFL, but what's the grade? What's the grade on the draft? Everything else. So you got to let these things play out. And, hopefully Mesidor has a long career and so does Bain, but yeah. Yeah, R. Mason. I just don't want to put like all this this pressure on him. Come on. Let him live. Let him develop.
I'm just happy. I can't wait.
I know.
The preseason as well. And also one thing that he said is stuck out as me is with the Raiders, and I kind of saying that he thought the same thing about the Raiders as well. Like if they can put it all together, right? They did everything on the defense. They did everything offense. They brought in some the quarterback, and they also got Kirk Cousins as well. And they got the kid from Arkansas, the running back, to back up. They running back they drafted in the first round as well. If they can put this all together, the Raiders could be a surprise team. What do you think, Luke?
I think, a lot of free agents on defense, right? I mean, a lot of like individual players that they're looking to really like take the next step. Some guys are a little bit older veterans or whatever. And that's kind of when they thought they weren't going to have Max Crosby. Now, all of a sudden you throw Max Crosby back into that. So if they can get that defense playing together as a unit quickly, because you've got so many guys that haven't played together yet, it could be an interesting team. They're certainly going to be more competitive. And like you said, at quarterback, if it's Kirk, then you know what you're getting. I mean, it may not be like all these explosives and whatever, but there's also not going to be a ton of mistakes, right? And that's kind of where, the Chiefs have beat up on the AFC West, is that these teams just haven't been kind of settled at the quarterback position. You can say that about Denver, the Chargers. I mean, it's a much tougher division than it was a few years ago. And, the Raiders are certainly in that mix. And like I said, if that defense can kind of come together with all those free agents, it can be interesting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. The Broncos, I don't know what they're going to get from Bo Mix, but it all depends on what the Kansas City Chiefs do, right? They put all these guys on defense, and, and what I'm hearing from a lot of media guys is, I know it's early. I know it's rookie training camp. Hey, this ain't no Justin Ross. Even though he's wearing number 8, Luke. Even though Jeff's wearing number 8.
Well, he's not coming in off a catastrophic injury either. And he's a little bit taller than Justin and a little bit faster than Justin. So I think just athletically, now I think Justin was more advanced as just a receiver in general because he played 3 years of Division I FBS football, where Jeff Caldwell's only played 1 year at Cincinnati. So again, a lot of upside. So if anything, over the weekend, one of the most impressive things I saw over the weekend is some of these guys, like I think it was Matt Derrick had some videos and whatever, is just, it was so refreshing to see and hear coaching being done by assistant coaches, and especially Chad O'Shea, which I'm sure he wants to set the tone, just what to expect. I'm sure it'll be the same when the veterans come in and whatever, and they're doing drills. He's correcting him on things and whatever. I don't know if that was happening last year. This is a professional and an adult. He's done this for years. He's not intimidated by players, where if you're not that experienced in the sport, you haven't coached at the highest level, and you're telling these professional athletes, this is what I think you should do. It doesn't quite hit as the same as a guy that's been doing it for 20 years and has worked with some of the best receivers. So I'm just excited for that. DeMarco Murray, obviously in the running back room, EB coaching running backs, along with DeMarco and the entire offense. Just that alone, I think, is going to make a big difference on this team, and then the young players. So
that's what we're going to have to.
I'm excited.
That's why we're going to have to get you down here for, a Chiefs preseason game or a season game, and then get you to training camp. They get you out here training camp before you can see it in person. That AEB with his white beard out here just going crazy on the running backs, and what I mean. So yeah, a lot of people saying don't be sleep on Jeff. Even though he went on draft, he just needed a good coach. And if he can coach the greatness out of him, 6'5", 216, 4'3".
Again, if these guys have been on the team, don't step it up, and he all of a sudden comes in hungry, and maybe his game isn't quite to that level, but they see the potential. He can make some noise in that room. Now, it's going to be a tough road, because if these younger guys like Rasheed and Xavier and Tyquan and Jalen all kind of take to the coaching as well, they elevate their games. Now, Jeff Caldwell is going to have a hard time making the team, right? Because, Cyrus Allen, again, he's a drafted player, a little bit smaller, but still, if he just does what he does, he's probably going to make the team. So, it'll be tough to see, because then you're looking at, okay, how many running backs are they going to keep? Is Brashard Smith now going to be on the outside looking in, because they brought in a free agent in DeMarcado? They draft a kid fairly high, Emmett Johnson, and now all of a sudden, is Brashard the odd man out? So a lot of things. We're way too early to be talking about that as far as roster positions, but just in terms of seeing how it's going to all work out, the tight ends is going to be fascinating, because, this Gillenborg kid, he's got some physical skills, not a ton of experience. Is Brenning Stool completely healthy? Is Jared Wiley completely healthy? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a fun camp, because there's going to be a ton of competition at just about every single room. You've got open spots, so it'll be a good time to be a Chiefs fan. Again, it's always good to be a Chiefs fan. What am I saying?
Let's go ahead and see what Sam said. Go ahead, Lou.
All right, so Sam. Well, I have to say, I didn't see any questions. You guys could have fired some questions for JP. This season is going to definitely be defined by the rookies and the run game, and more than anything, the offensive line. So, I mean, a lot of what we were saying last year as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The offensive line is everything, because you can have talented running backs and they can get you so much. But if the offensive line's really working it, now these talented running backs can really go nuts. So yes, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Offensive line got to gel together, got to settle on the right tackle, and then they can take off. So
speaking of the fans, have you watched behind the scenes of the draft yet?
I saw a couple of clips this morning. I didn't watch I guess it's called the Pick Is In. It was on ESPN. I'm sure I can go look at it on ESPN Plus. But I saw when Dallas was trading with who was it? Philadelphia. And when the Steelers happened to be on the phone with Mekhi Lemon, but it wasn't their pick yet, and Philadelphia was trying to get up ahead of Pittsburgh, and they traded with Dallas. So that was good, because it was Jerry wasn't so much on the phone. His son was, but Jerry, you could tell, was directing traffic and saying, "Get Howie on the phone." So that part was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll be watching that today or tomorrow. Hold on.
I'm sure with the Chiefs trading up from 9 to 6, that'll be one. All right, so from It's 100, we actually signed
Indiana.
Oh, Indiana right tackle Khalil Benson. He covered for Mendoza last year. He might be a tryout player. I don't know if he was one of the UDFAs or not. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of offensive linemen there and guys that are coming back from last year. I think they liked what they saw in Pole. I keep mentioning the name Ethan Driscoll. They like him a lot. He was on one of the injured lists or something was going on with him where he missed the entire year. But that is a large human being, 6'8" or taller, big dude. So again, we'll see. There'll be a lot of competition for that spot. That's for sure.
So yeah, with that said, man, hey, we want to thank everybody for joining in. We had Coach or Nick on here. Hey, we're gonna have more guests coming around, waiting on to hear back from Louis Ray.
Keep it secret. Easy
okay.
Now.
Okay. Well, yeah, we got
working on some other guests and some national people, but no, JP coming from CBS Sports HQ. I mean, that's a pretty big deal, and hopefully, he comes back on as the season comes up or during the season. That'll be a pretty cool thing, and we get other people on here. We'll certainly have them on, and you guys, when you come in the chat, if you have questions too, throw them up there. We'll give them to the guest. I'm sure they'll have no problem trying to give you what you want to hear. So
with that said, we will be back Wednesday, and
we will.
I think Lou got a guy that's he's going to be trying to break down. That's probably make
some more UDFAs that but they're certainly signed. They'll be here through the summer for the most part. Now, some I think they have made a couple of moves. There, like I said, Jake Haener was one that was cut. Zach Pickens, a defensive tackle they had brought in last year, and there was one other player, and they did sign I think at least 2 of the tryout players to free agent contracts. So. Competition has started. Guys, that roster is always fluid. It's always moving. So you got to show up and you got to show out every time. Let's go.
So with that said, guys, we'll see you guys Wednesday. You guys, if you guys missed it, go back and rewatch the show with JP. For us, it was a great interview. I love the kid. He got a great lot of stuff ahead of him. So with that said, guys, we will see you guys Wednesday.
Peace.
Loyal to the team, every victory we slay. Chiefs Blitz podcast where the real fans unite. Every touchdown score, ignite the night. From tailgate chatter to post-game debate, we love our Chiefs, yeah, it's never too late.